Thank you for checking out our new Saturday morning live show with Angie and myself, Josh. I appreciate it. Today we're talking about John Lasseter, and we decided to pick this topic because it is kind of controversial. It'd be a good topic to start off the new live show. Angie, first and foremost, do you think John Lasseter will come back to Disney and Pixar? They said he would be on kind of a hiatus. He's taking a long vacation, but is he going to actually come back to Disney and Pixar?
I feel like he's gonna come back to tie up some loose ends, but then I don't think he's gonna be back permanently. I think within the next 2 years, he's gone.
I don't even think he's going to be back for 2 years. I think, in my personal opinion, John Lasseter is no longer going to be a creative officer in the company. I think, if anything, he'll be a consultant, but he wouldn't be an actual creative. Our dog is sitting over here. I'm sorry. He won't be like an actual creative officer in charge of anything at Disney or Pixar, and that goes for Imagineering, that goes for any of the animation departments. I think that Disney let him go on this hiatus, and they're trying to figure out replacements in all of these categories. And then from there, they'll bring him back in and say, look, we're going to have you on as a consultant. We can, go to the press, say that you are no longer a creative director with the company, and just kind of like swipe everything under the rug and let John Lasseter be a side thing.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's kind of what, I was thinking when I said what I said. Because I said, he'd come back just to tie up some loose ends.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's, the same idea. He's going to come back, kind of you said, as a consultant. So I guess he would consult on the direction things were going to go in.
Yeah.
That's what I originally was the one who said that.
Sure.
You just elaborated on what I said, is all I'm saying.
The Story Geeks, I'm assuming Jay chimed in and he said he hasn't really been keeping up with the allegations that they become bad. I don't think that they've gotten worse. Yes, they were bad to begin with, and I think that Disney had to say something straightforward, right away when things came out, and that now that they did something, they put him on hiatus, that they kind of they have time to figure things out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if things have gotten, any worse necessarily, as much as just, no new information has really come out since the initial, week of
right, yeah. What do you guys think? I mean, this is a live show. Yeah. It's supposed to be interactive conversation. Yeah. It's supposed to be completely up to you guys. Well, I guess not completely up to you, but it's a two-way thing here, or I guess a three-way thing here with you, me, and the audience. What do you guys think as far as John Lasseter? Should he stay with Disney and Pixar, or should Disney and Pixar find different people to kind of be the head and the face of those companies? Because for better or for worse, Bob Iger is not the head of Disney to the public. He is, to the board, but I think most people... Yeah, I think most people think John Lasseter when they think Disney.
Yeah.
At least in this day.
Right, yeah. He's the face. He's the mascot, But here's my thing. And I don't know if you were, planning on getting to this anyway.
We're doing whatever.
I'm taking over!
Sure.
Is I think that the trend with Disney has kind of always been that whoever the face of the company is kind of lasts an average of maybe 11 years. Just say 10 to make it a nice
I mean, if
you're
not Walt Disney, yeah.
Yeah. And that has, that time is kind of already up for John Lasseter. And, kind of any of the Disney, eras have kind of been about a decade.
As far as the films, yeah, Michael Eisner was around for just about 20 years. And if you want to consider John Lasseter has only been around, as an actual Disney employee
for about 10 years.
About 10 years, just about 12 years.
Yeah.
But he started with Pixar, and their first movie came out officially in '95, which was Toy Story. But like he'd been working with Pixar, since the '80s, and they'd had a relationship with Disney since the mid '90s. So he's been around. I mean, it's been like 2+ decades that he's been associated with Disney. He's been kind of a face of Disney. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is truthfully one of the people that is very much behind how successful Disney Animation was only with that company for 10 years, between '84 and '94. And then there were a few things that he was involved in, which if you listen to the Disney Decade plug, you would know, some of the things that he had a hand in that were still successful after he left. And then, you had Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Home on the Range, and things that he wasn't involved in. And at that same time, you had like Shrek and things. And so Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was in charge of DreamWorks, started to see their animation taking off.
Right. Well, and you had talked about this in the latest video that you just put out. So I guess I'm doing another plug.
Well,
there.
My Wednesday video.
Your Wednesday. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Anyway, you had said that, like, is this the end of
the revival era?
The revival era, which would.
What do you guys think?
Be about like the start around Bolt with and then really kick off with Tangled. Well, Princess and the Frog, but Tangled kind of defined the era, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tangled was the biggest success of. Well, if you're gonna say it was Bolt and then Princess and the Frog, they both kind of led forward, and then you can see Tangled being this huge shoot forward.
But if it's the end of that era, if according to your video, I'll cite you.
Lights are falling on us. We're fine. Live show. Really quick, I want to jump into the chat here. So Luna Alpha said, "What's going on?" We're talking about John Lasseter. We're talking about him leaving the Disney company, and whether or not the revival era is over, whether or not Disney picks somebody else new to kind of run their creative department, or if Pixar does, etc. And I gotta point out, Jay from the Story Geeks is in here. I was on their show about a couple of weeks ago. We recorded it, but it just came out, and we talked about Back to the Future. And in that show, we talked about sexual harassment. We talked about a lot of themes that actually kind of deal with John Lasseter and what to do with that. So if you want to check out me talking about Back to the Future, go on iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out the Story Geeks podcast. And Dale and Shannon are going to be on talking about Star Wars. Shannon's already been on before talking about Star Wars. It's all she wants to talk about anymore. So,
I don't know if you just threw shade at her.
No.
I'm here to defend you, Shannon.
Dale, who is a part of Network 1901, asked, do you think he should have to lose his job with no specific stories or people who have come forward or hurt by his actions? I think that for Disney in particular, they don't believe that bad press is good press. I think that they believe that bad press needs to be handled quickly and dealt with and swept under the rug.
Yes.
So I feel like even if John Lasseter didn't do anything, I'm putting that in quotations, that they would still try and find a different role for him and then move somebody else into his place. I mean, that seems to be the safest thing to do. We could go back and argue if Walt Disney did some awful things, and it's the time period, but women only being able to work in the ink and paint department. People have always had allegations on if he was anti-Semitic or not. I'm not going to say that in this episode. I mean, I have my own feelings about it, but those allegations are out there. But it was his company. They couldn't sweep it under the rug necessarily.
Right.
Now they have board members They have stock prices to think about. They have all these different things. Of course, they're going to think that we move Lasseter out of the way and we bring somebody else in. And they've got a ton of people who could step into that role. Yesterday, you were just watching a TED Talk with Andrew Stanton. Andrew Stanton is a fantastic guy, creative person. I think he could totally step into that role.
Well, his Andrew Stanton's core principle, I guess I would say, or actually, Andrew Stanton says every character has a spine. So it's kind of like they have something that drives them towards their goal, their ultimate defining trait. And Andrew Stanton's spine seems to be story and story development, which is what Disney at the core has always been all about, and Pixar has always been all about.
Yeah.
So if he just so truly holds on to that idea, he actually he was saying spine is so, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I just really liked this.
Yeah, you're good.
So he said that when they were doing Toy Story, that Woody was actually more mean in the original concept.
Well, yeah, he was.
Yeah, and they were showing this the concept quick sketches, and he was yelling at Slinky Dog and calling him I forget what it was. It was a spring weenie or something and he, Slinky Dog was so sad, but it was just a still of sad Slinky Dog.
Yeah.
And I was just I hate Woody. And he was you have to have a main character, at least in this case, likable.
Yeah.
Or the movie's not gonna work. And it's he gets these
little tiny points.
And actually and the reason I bring that up was because I'm just gonna throw in another plug here. I actually started doing a bullet point on that TED Talk because I was
I want to do a video about it.
Because I want to do a video because it hit me and I was that's what makes Disney and Pixar so high above a company like DreamWorks.
Yeah.
That core belief.
Well, and DreamWorks puts out really great storytelling to a certain extent, but I don't feel like I connect with the characters as much as I could.
Yes.
Pixar. The reason why Pixar makes everyone cry is because we see ourselves in these characters.
Mm-hmm.
We see these stories playing out. When you watch Finding Nemo, I now look at it from. I have dogs. We don't have kids, but I look at it from a parental point of view, right? Automatically, I'm oh, I get why Marlin is so afraid as a parent, and that he does need to learn and grow, but I understand his point.
Yeah.
But when you watch Shrek or Madagascar, these are funny stories with funny characters, but it's not.
Well,
it's not me.
The zebra is wearing
a fro,
and he has polka dots, and he's dun, 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 afro, dun, dun, or whatever, and it's it's I'm not connecting personally, but no. It's not just that. It is just that, but it's that comes from this formula of other aspects, which includes storytelling, and it includes that spine idea.
Yeah.
And it's whatever that formula is that makes a good story that people can connect to is what Disney has. And John, I think that how that relates back to this conversation is with John Lasseter. He has always been somebody that's been true to that too, but lately he hasn't necessarily. You were talking about this again in your video, and I just keep wanting to elaborate on that because I liked the video.
You can check out my Wednesday video that went up about the revival era. You know.
But what you were saying is we're almost in the sequel era now, and that's so. So the thing about John Lasseter is I think they were gonna get rid of him anyway eventually. It's about time to start.
He was either gonna move to a different job.
Yeah, but when I say get rid of him, I kind of like mean that. Like they're gonna like, he's not gonna be the face of the company anymore. He's not gonna be in the role that he is in anymore.
Yeah.
Whether they keep him or not, I still think like that's kind of like getting rid of him. But with what Dale had said, um, I feel like because he and I know this is weird, but I'm just gonna scroll up.
You're also pointing at the computer, which for a lot of people they don't even see the computer. While you're scrolling through this, it's kind of interesting because at the D23 Expo, Skylar and Brittany and Phoebe all found us, and we all just kind of hung out. And they're now calling themselves like they're a super group of us. So thank you so much for being so cool with us, guys. And for those who aren't Brittany or Skylar or Phoebe, no, seriously.
Hi, guys.
We've been continuing to have like a dozen or more people in the chat at any given time. People have kind of come in and out. Thank you so much for checking out the first ever Saturday morning live show. We're working through some bugs. I know that there's not been a live feed completely. There's been, some glitches and stuff.
And the light falling on us.
We're working through it. The light fell, the first few minutes of this were a little rough, but we're getting through it, and thank you for checking this out. We're going to be doing these every Saturday morning starting at 9 a.m., so let's make it a ritual. Let's get together and chat about stuff. Somebody asked, Aqua asked who Harvey Weinstein is, and I think it matters to this story because Harvey Weinstein has been kind of a big shot in Hollywood for quite a few years. I believe he's part of the Screen Actors Guild. Maybe he wasn't, but he might have been part of the Academy.
If not, he's definitely like influential in that way.
He's been very influential. He's definitely produced a lot of films. You may have seen like his name at the beginning of a lot of films, and basically just Weinstein. But over the last few months, we've learned that he would bring women in, and if they wanted a job or whatever the situation may have been, he would expose himself. He would make women do stuff for him in very crude ways, and
in sexual assault.
And because of that was kind of the first shot at Hollywood, and now everybody's kind of taken down a peg, and one by one we're seeing women come forward and have their stories. And, that just happened to be a situation with John Lasseter. And whether or not you believe it, whether or not it really happened, whether or not it happened to multiple people or just one people, it doesn't matter. The story is bad. Disney has to deal with the bad press. Pixar has to deal with the bad press. And I think they need to find a new route going forward. Yeah. But what did you have to say? I'm sorry. Okay. Now let's get back to Angie.
So what I was saying was like, that I think they were going to get rid of him anyway, because it's kind of, his time just seems up with being that role. Wait, no, I was going to read what Dale said.
Yeah. Dale said.
So he had actually he said, do you think he should have to lose his job with no specific stories or people who have come forward or were hurt by his actions? So I think that, I think people should still come forward regardless, I guess is ultimately what I was going to try to say. I think that maybe it's not fair for him to lose his job or lose his position when there aren't going to be specific stories coming out. But I think he would be out in the next couple years anyway.
Yeah.
But I think, apart from that, I think that specific stories should come out because we're kind of, in the midst of people feeling very empowered to share their stories. They feel, a sense of bravery, and I feel like...
I don't even know if it's empowerment. I feel like it's almost acceptance. The world is not looking at them as a victim in a bad way. They're looking at them as, how can we help you? And if you come forward now, we say, okay, let's look at this as a court case, we can't prove anybody guilty, but we need to look at this as a serious allegation.
Right.
And you're not being made fun of. And that's been, the problem on college campuses and all kinds of definite you know, situations over the last, I mean, not even years, decades. There have been stories where people have just, you know, felt abused or used or whatever, and they're just kind of shrugged off. And now they're not being shrugged off; they're being taken seriously.
Right.
And now we're asking, how can we help?
Right.
Uh, but Disney does need to look at this as a very serious problem, and probably needs to fix it, you know, behind the scenes, and
Right.
then come forward with a press release.
Yeah, which is like, I guess, kind of like what I was trying to get at is that, like, people should come forward with their specific stories, if not only for their own personal sake. And I know maybe that doesn't work for everyone who's been like a victim of sexual assault. Um, but I think, like, in most cases, it's been proven that a victim who comes forward and shares their story sort of like crosses that line of like not being a victim anymore, because like the whole definition of a victim is somebody basically has something happen to them that's completely out of their control, right?
Yeah.
So you're not a you can't decide your own fate. You're a victim to whatever like force is happening. So you're a victim because you're being sexually assaulted. You don't want that to happen, and now you're kind of like taking that control back of your own fate, right? When you come forward and you.
Yeah, you are taking that control back from somebody who took control.
So I think people should come. I think specific stories should come out, but I still, and I think that maybe it's not fair for John Lasseter if stories don't come out for us. But I think that maybe that point doesn't. It's like all speculation because I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he's just gonna go away anyway.
Yeah, Captain Nacron said in the comments that in the beginning John Lasseter set up the core values of Pixar. I think that John Lasseter had a very good role model in Walt Disney as far as storytelling. The idea is that every frame matters in animation. Every element counts. And like you said with Andrew Stanton, those little details really do matter. They connect with us. And, him setting up the values and him kind of bringing things back to the forefront of animation. I mean, Disney was already on a hot streak before they brought in Pixar and released Toy Story. But Toy Story really took it to a different level because it not only... I mean, Disney was telling great stories, but they really weren't pushing huge boundaries with animation, or at least not as quickly as Pixar was. Pixar pushed the boundaries out of the water with bringing CG animation in. Now, I think in the last few years, we've seen Pixar and Disney. I mean, all the characters, if you think about them, they all have these big, round eyes with these beautiful, colors. All the characters on either side, if they're humans, kind of look the same. You can't really tell the difference between a Pixar movie and a Disney movie. And that's kind of sad, but I don't know, it's fine, whatever. But like, it would be nice to see Disney animation and Pixar animation kind of go in different directions, and to maybe have somebody brought up in my video from Wednesday about the revival era being over, that maybe they should have 2 different heads of those departments, or even 3 with Toon Disney.
So like basically, like John Lasseter might still be the head and face of Pixar, but not Disney Animation.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that. Like,
but that could be.
I mean, yeah, he could be, but like, you could find different people for all these different departments.
Yeah.
But like, Disney has been playing with the Meander software, with Paperman, with Feast, and it looks fantastic. And why they haven't gone that route more, I don't know. They did a little bit with Moana, but I think they should be making full animated features with that program and really trying to push the boundaries. I think Pixar did a really great job with, I want to say it was called Piper, right? With the little bird. The little bird running across the beach was fantastic. And they should go more that way. The Good Dinosaur, the backgrounds looked amazing. The juxtaposition of the cartoon dinosaurs in front of it was kind of... but the idea was there, and the possibilities of moving the animation in that direction seems fantastic to me. Like, the stories on both sides are really good at this point. Disney understands, and Pixar understands how to tell a great story. Now how do you push the boundaries in animation? I think that you need two different people to tell each department how to go a different way, because they're too similar at this point.
Yeah, well, Disney and Pixar essentially like have the monopoly on animation, right? Like on the market of animation, right? So like they're at the top. So like
for the most part, I mean, like the Academy, like right, Boss Babies and the Academy Awards, but you know, like there's, I mean, there are different animation studios doing very different things. You look at Studio Ghibli, who's been doing, you know, top-notch anime for years, and they have a style and they have their way of doing things, and it's not the way that Disney does stuff. Even though they're distributed by Disney, they haven't been influenced by it.
But Disney and Pixar, what I'm trying to say is like they're on top. They're, I think, like unanimously people would agree they're on top of the animation game.
I mean, they're making, I mean, you know, billion-dollar movies. Zootopia was $1 billion. I think Moana was $1 billion or close to, and then like, I mean, Frozen just was a powerhouse success. Yeah.
So like, I think that's the problem is like when you're a company that has grown and has really been who was setting the bar to begin with, and like always topping their own bar. Like, I think that the fact that they've kind of merged at this point, and it's almost like you can't tell them apart.
Yeah.
I think that they've kind of like settled at a spot where they're comfortable, and like when you kind of merge and you like have the monopoly, and then you don't push yourself, like you said, like you push boundaries. And I think like if they separated themselves and had like friendly competition, that's always what makes business and technology grow, is trying to you know, be the best,
be different and be the best. Oh, you look at how you know, the TV animation's gone, which is fantastic. I love, and this is me personally, and I think you too, we love the way that the new Mickey Mouse cartoons look. I love the way that they didn't, I mean, they couldn't because it would take too much time, the CG animated Tangled series, right? They made it 2D, they gave it a style, they gave it a personality in the animation.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that they've taken chances and risks in television animation, and why they haven't done that in feature animation. They've done it in the shorts, like before the movie, and like when I saw, and like a lot of people in the chat have already said Paperman is awesome. Paperman came before Wreck-It Ralph, and I do like Wreck-It Ralph, but I will tell you, when I saw it in theaters, Paperman, the 6-minute short, blew me away.
I should
completely.
make Paperman mouse ears.
You should make Paperman mouse ears. Paperman blew me away, 100%. And then Wreck-It Ralph followed it, and I kind of just like, I understood, because a lot of people, you know, from their Big Fish kind of stories from decades and decades ago, and Walt Disney put out, you know, some of the shorts he had, like Steamboat Willie, that people would pay money to see the short before the movie and not pay, you know, they were paying their $2 or whatever it was at the time to see the 6-minute short. They weren't going to see the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I never understood that. I get that with Paperman. I 100% was like, I just want to see this short again. Will you play it after the movie again? I don't care to see Wreck-It Ralph. I just want to see more of this.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with the shorts, it's like the passion project of the company. So it's or of the animation department, and it's like, I feel like they have so much more free liberties with the shorts. They don't have to appease all of like the producers and like everyone else. Like how many layers of people does like a full length feature?
Oh, it's far
animation.
too many people.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you look at the credits, like besides like them thinking like all the babies born, you know, during a movie, like you just, I mean, like when we sat through, because we went to like a precedent for Coco, so we got to see it a couple of weeks before it hit theaters. Not bragging, I'm just pointing it out, because we actually sat through the credits to be able to hear like a Q&A with like Michael Giacchino and like Lee Unkrich and a few other people involved in the film. those credits last. I mean, they were. It was a beautiful credits because of the music and some of the stylistic animation that went into it. But and by the way, even the credits were like this kind of 2D, beautiful animation, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Why wasn't this the whole movie? Um, but or at least interpreted into the movie. But I mean, I think the credits had to have lasted like 4 minutes. You know, it was crazy, and that's how Disney and Pixar movies are. When you look at the shorts, they're all on like
Yeah.
one like thumbnail style thing. It's just like, here are the 50 people
Yeah.
that worked on this, and it's like great. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if it takes 10 years to make a movie that's stylistically interesting
Yeah.
and the story's good. I'll wait. And like so many people in the chat are saying, yes, 2D. I miss 2D. Like Paperman was great. There are enough people who saw this, who were interested in it, and Feast was like the next step in that. It blew people away. They went from the black and white to the color. Why is this not being pushed forward? It's because I think we've gotten, excuse me, like with Michael Eisner, right? Michael Eisner, when his first few years were there at the Disney company, he was like, let's push boundaries, let's change things. They built several parks, Disney World, new hotels everywhere. They were pushing the boundaries of animation at the time, trying to tell amazing stories. They brought in Pixar. And then the last few years of Eisner, it was like they were just investing money in the wrong things. They had to try and sell off some stuff. Things weren't working. Everybody just got too kind of complacent.
Yeah.
Everything was a little micromanaged. I kind of feel like we're at that point now where we had all of these people, like you said, everybody lasts a good 10 years. And then we get to this place where everybody's like, I fit into my role. Everybody's complacent.
They're
like,
comfortable, and that's the thing is like things need to be stirred up. And I'm not saying like
get rid of everybody and bring,
well, I'm
in
not
new
saying
people.
well, I'm not saying like I'm glad people felt violated by John Lasseter, and I don't even know like the full extent.
Yeah,
like,
don't say that. No.
Like he might need to be prosecuted for what he's done. Like you know what I mean. Like I'm not, but I'm saying like it would have happened anyway. I believe because it's like maybe it's a sore spot, so it would have like dragged on a little longer than it should have. Like aside from the allegations.
Yeah.
But like I think like Pixar's putting out a movie and they're not saying I feel like they probably used to say let's do better than Disney, like let's make this better than Disney,
and now
they're like
you are Disney, so let's just play
it just
ball.
has to be just as good as
and I mean you can't really tell the difference between the movies at this point. The storytelling's fantastic, the animation is nice, but like even then you look at Sony or DreamWorks, some of the other now bigger animation studios, they're catching up to where Pixar and Disney are on a technical standpoint. And now it's like even more conglomerated of like who made this movie. Like Boss Baby does kind of look like a Disney movie, to be honest with you. And like, do they want people to see Boss Baby and be like, this was our like a small animation studio making their movies, like a Box Trolls or Coraline or something. They have a stylistic approach that looks very different than everybody else. It looks so nice. Kubo on the Two Strings was up for Academy Awards, and it was a real contender because it was so different. It was groundbreaking. It looked beautiful. The technical stuff was there, and they're moving the computer stuff and the stop motion stuff forward in such a crazy direction. They're surpassing Disney. DreamWorks is catching up and possibly surpassing Disney, and they don't need that. They shouldn't be there. They should be moving way further past that. So
well, you feel like they're probably not experimenting like they used to. They're not trying to find the next best thing first.
But that's the funny. They are experimenting. You see it in the shorts. You see it not in Dinosaurs from 2000. In The Good Dinosaur, you see it in the background art. You see little tiny things that are why isn't this happening for the whole movie? Why is this not being used? You see the stylistic approach that they're taking on the television series, and they're doing that because it's a little bit faster than the CG animation, and they can get away with a few other things. Fine, do that. I want to see a full-length feature DuckTale movie. in that style. I like the way it looks. I like the stories that you're telling. I like the voice cast. I like the characters. DuckTales is a hit because of the technical side of it and the storytelling side of it. That's just, yeah, you know? Um, anyways, this kind of ran long. We kind of got away from John Lasseter. But,
Oh yeah.
real quick, so in the comments, somebody asked quite a while ago. I don't want to scroll back through, but somebody asked in the comments who our top picks would be to kind of run Disney or Pixar, or even Toon Disney. I know we already said Andrew Stanton. Who else do you think could run that side of it? And I know like you probably, because of the Disney decade, I've definitely learned a lot more names than I probably ever needed to. Do you know anybody like in the animation realm or anything that you? I mean, we saw Lee Unkrich. He did Coco. He's been with Pixar pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah.
I think he would be a great contender.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it needs to be someone internal.
Yeah, who's been around and well, maybe not. I mean, Jeffrey Katzenberg was an outside guy and he learned on the job, and it would take a special person to learn that job in particular.
Was he a creative person though?
He was not. No, not at all. He would definitely be. I mean, he kind of knew what would work and what wouldn't. Like in the last episode of the Disney Decade, you can listen to it now on iTunes. I'm just saying. We talked about how they had this idea for Fantasia 2000, and he said no, it doesn't work. And what we actually cut out of the show is that he thought that the only way it would work is if you did something with pop music. And he thought, okay, let's do Fantasia, but with all Beatles music. And let's do every song with the Beatles. And that would have, in my opinion, worked better than Fantasia 2000 did.
But do you think, so maybe at the time, that's what Disney needed. They needed somebody who wasn't necessarily the creative person, but, the more logical, I guess you'd say. But do you think that's what Disney needs now? Do you think and Pixar, do you think treating them separately, do you think that if whoever they're gonna appoint now next as the face and the head of animation, do you think they need a creative person, or do you think
I think that they need a creative person, or somebody who's willing to allow creative people to come to them and he makes Jeffrey Katzenberg wasn't a creative person, but he allowed creative people to be creative.
Yeah, so
and
you're you're not making creative decisions.
What he did was he was a filter. People would be super creative, and then he would say, this stuff over here really works, but maybe take out this stuff. And he was really good at that. That was what was great. Michael Eisner and Frank Wells were a really great duo, because Michael Eisner was this guy who could be really creative and come up with all these ideas, and then Frank Wells would just be like, okay, some of this stuff is a little, no, we can't do that, but sure, we'll do this. And he had that filter, and then when Frank Wells ended up dying, that's when Michael Eisner had problems with executives and board members, because he didn't have that filter. He didn't have anybody to keep him in check. I think that there needs to be a person in charge that needs to kind of be the person to keep people in check, creative or not. But I think that there needs to be somebody who can step up, who's worked on the technical side of things and the creative side of things at both companies, and say, yes, we can be creative. Yes, we can be technical. Let's go this way, and let's try it. If it fails, it fails. If it does great, we continue that route. They tried stuff. They've tried things before. The Rescuers Down Under was a trial. It didn't work. The Princess and the Frog was a trial to get back into 2D animation. It didn't work as well as they wanted it to. They've tried things, but they haven't since Princess and the Frog, which was 2009, almost 10 years ago. So if they could try things and push boundaries in a different direction, that's where I think. What do you guys think? We're going to wrap this up in 5 minutes or so. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on where Disney and Pixar should go, or even Toon Disney. Toon Disney, that's been basically Pixar light with the Planes movies. They've been doing DuckTales and some of the other TV stuff, which has been fantastic. And but I think most people know Toon Disney, the name, because of planes, which is unfortunate. But I mean, yeah. Well, Shannon, who's a part of Network 1901, said, "Oh God, Princess of the Frog was almost 10 years ago." I know, we're old people because we saw. I mean, the last 2D movie from Disney, which is known for 2D hand-drawn animation. The last one they did was 10 years ago. Everything else has looked like a Pixar movie since.
Yeah.
So,
How's it?
what do you think? Do you think Tangled looks like Pixar? Does Tangled?
Oh no, yeah, no, definitely Tangled looks like Pixar, but I'm saying like that's the last 2D.
That's the last 2D animated movie, and like there have been bits and pieces, right? Like in Moana, the animation on Maui's chest is done with the meander system,
Yeah.
and like there, like I said, there are bits and things like that they've done that's like great. You did this,
Yeah, but not full
and
length.
people love it. But why aren't you just doing this?
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyways, thank you guys for checking out our live stream, our first ever Saturday morning live show with Angie and I. We're gonna be doing this every week, 9 a.m. What do you guys say?
And we want to know if you would like us to do it like it's Saturday morning cartoon watching where we.
She wants to do it from bed.
I want to do it from bed, and like we have like cereal, and we're like in our PJs, and it's like we're having like Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
With everybody.
Skylar corrected me that Winnie the Pooh, which was the second Winnie the Pooh movie, which is weird to say, came out in 2011. So it's been 7 years since the last 2D animated movie.
Okay.
But again, Winnie the Pooh was not a huge runaway success. You know, like they had Tangled in the Winnie the Pooh, and it was like, oh, well, like, what is this?
And Winnie the Pooh's already an existing character, and like he has to be hand drawn, and
yeah,
you can't come out with like
a 3D Winnie the Pooh. They have done I mean, like with Kingdom Hearts and stuff. There's been, and it looks.
I mean, they've done live action Winnie the Pooh with people.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
yeah, or even like I feel like the Disney, like when you go to Disneyland and you go on the Winnie the Pooh ride, I'm like, I know that you're Winnie the Pooh and you're like an actual thing in front of me, but like you look weird. Like I don't know,
because he's a children's book animation. Like he's an illustration.
Yeah. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to check out Modern Mouse Boutique for all of our ears and things. Maybe we'll be making Paperman ears. A couple of people said yes, you should. We just launched new ears like these, except for their have a wizard hat, so you can get the wizard hat instead of the bow if that's what you like. But it still comes with the scarf and the wand and all the emblems for each house. We've got some other things to work on with Modern Mouse Boutique in the works. We have hats too if you don't want ears, and we have little porgs. We have these porgs here.
Yeah, Shannon's probably about to freak out in the chat.
Yeah, right. So you can get one of these porgs at Modern Mouse Boutique. But thank you so much. Check out our shirts. We're launching shirts every Tuesday. I've been designing new shirts. Our new logo, I think that's going to be this coming week's shirt. I want to say it's our new logo, but really it's a stylistic take on our logo. We're not 100% sure if it's going to be a permanent like change or not. It's a stylistic thing that we like and that we are going to put on a t-shirt. And there's tons of shirts coming out. And make sure to check TeePublic because they do sales every now and then. Just saying. I know. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check us out on those, Network 1901. And then thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll be back again next week for another live show. Thanks for talking with us. Bye.
Hurry back.
Keep on moving, people. And now it's awkward because we have to go around and hit the button that says stop.
Oh, but didn't you wanna do, like